One day, a waitress covered the cost of a veteran's meal. The following day, tanks arrived at her restaurant. As the wind howled outside, Emily wiped down the counter of Rosie's diner during one slow night, where time dragged on and tips were hard to come by. She sighed as she glanced at the clock. Just an hour left before closing time. Just as she was about to grab the coffee pot, the door creaked open and in walked a man whose uniform was tattered and boots caked with mud, his weary eyes carrying the weight of countless battles. Emily had encountered many struggling customers, but something about this man made her pause. He hesitated at the entrance as if he was reconsidering coming in. Then, after taking a deep breath, he shuffled to a corner booth and sank into the seat. Emily approached him with a menu in hand. "Good evening, sir," she said warmly. "What can I get for you?" He looked up, his hardened expression softened by her gentle tone. "Just a cup of coffee, please," he replied in a rough voice that suggested it hadn't been used much lately. Emily noticed how his fingers trembled slightly as they gripped the edge of the tab. A single cup of coffee wouldn't satisfy anyone's hunger, but she simply offered him an understanding smile. "How about a meal on the house?" His eyes flickered with an emotion that could have been gratitude or perhaps pride holding him back. "I cannot accept that, Liz," he began hesitantly. "You served our country," she gently interrupted. "Let me serve you." The man exhaled slowly as his resistance crumbled, and gave her a grateful nod. "Thank you," he said quietly. A few minutes later, she set down a steaming plate of eggs, bacon, and a generous stack of pancakes in front of him. He gazed at it thoughtfully for several moments before picking up his fork. The first bite seemed to hit hard. His eyes closed as if savoring more than just food, perhaps solace or connection too. As he relished the warmth of a proper meal, Emily observed him discreetly. There was something distinct about him. Despite being an exhausted veteran facing struggles, he carried himself with quiet strength. She felt curious about his story, but sensed that he wasn't ready to share it yet. After finishing his meal, he reached into his pocket and pulled out some crumpled bills. "I can at least pay for the coffee," he offered, but Emily gently pushed the money back toward him with a shake of her head and said, "Consider it a thank you for your service." He gazed at her, an unspoken understanding passing between them. With a subtle, almost hesitant nod, he returned the money to his pocket. "People don't usually do things like this," he murmured quietly. "They should," she replied simply. Rising and adjusting his jacket, he said warmly, "You are a kind soul, miss, more than you know." With those words lingering in the air, he turned and walked toward the door. As it swung open with a creak, a gust of cold wind surged into the diner, sending shivers through its occupants. He paused for just a moment before stepping outside, disappearing into the night beyond. Emily lingered for a moment, gazing at the vacant booth. Something about that encounter lingered with her, a feeling she couldn't quite shake off. Little did she know that by morning, her simple act of kindness would ignite a series of events beyond anything she could have imagined. The next day, as dawn broke and sunlight crept over the horizon, Emily arrived at Rosie's diner anticipating an ordinary day, serving regulars alongside passing truckers and maybe meeting the occasional new patron. As she pulled into the parking lot, her foot suddenly slammed on the brakes as her heart pounded in her chest. Right outside the diner, a convoy of military vehicles was lined up, stretching down the road. At its center were two massive tanks parked directly at the entrance. A few customers had gathered outside, with their phones raised to capture this surreal scene. Emily's pulse raced as she slowly stepped out of her car, her breath visible in the crisp morning air. Soldiers in uniform stood around, some speaking into radios and others scanning their surroundings as if they were securing an area perimeter. What was happening as she pushed through the small crowd, her apron still clutched in her hand? Before she could inquire with anyone, a soldier approached. His uniform was crisp and his boots polished, yet his expression remained unreadable. "Are you Emily Carter?" he asked firmly but without hostility. Emily swallowed hard before replying. "Yes, that's me." The soldier nodded and stepped aside, revealing the same man from last night, the quiet and weary veteran whom she had fed. He was no longer the man she remembered. His tattered clothes had been replaced with a pristine, decorated military uniform. Medals gleamed on his chest, and he was accompanied by high-ranking officials standing behind him. Emily's mind raced as she realized that this man one she'd assumed to be just another struggling veteran was clearly someone of significance. The man stepped forward confidently and met her gaze. "Good morning, Miss Carter," he said with quiet authority in his voice. "I believe we owe you a thank you." Emily blinked in surprise at these words directed toward her. "A thank you?" His lips curved into a small smile as he nodded gently. "You did not know who I was last night, did you?" She shook her head silently, still too stunned to form any words. "My name is General James Holloway," he announced, causing the crowd to gasp in astonishment. Emily felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. She realized that the man she had cared for, and who appeared utterly defeated, was actually a high-ranking official commander of the United States Army Special Operations Division. With his tone softening, General Holloway continued, "I have been on an extended unclassified mission. When I returned home, it felt like a place unfamiliar to me. No one seemed to care or even notice my presence." He paused, his eyes locking onto hers. "But you did." Emily's throat tightened as she observed a man in need of kindness. He continued, "Not because of a uniform or rank, but simply because it was the right thing to do." The weight of his words settled over her, while she struggled to make sense of everything. I didn't do it expecting anything in return," she confessed. "And that's precisely why you deserve this," he replied with a slight nod toward one of the soldiers. Within seconds, they brought forward a briefcase and opened it to reveal stacks of crisp bills inside. Emily gasped. $50,000. General Holloway said, "It's a personal gift from me." Her hand trembled as she stared at the money. Before she could respond, the general gestured toward the crowd and announced, "Today we are here not just to thank you, we are here to honor you." The soldiers around them snapped to attention in unison as their boots hit the pavement. In the distance, a military band began playing. The entire scene felt surreal. Emily's hands flew to cover her mouth, tears welling up in her eyes. This wasn't merely gratitude. It was a moment she would never forget, and it marked only the beginning. She stood frozen, breath shallow as she struggled to comprehend what was unfolding before her. A crowd had gathered, whispering and snapping photos while watching in awe at the military presence that had transformed her small diner into a focal point of attention. The $50,000 briefcase felt surreal, but more overwhelming than the money itself was the sheer magnitude of this experience. General Holloway took another step closer, his gaze warm yet steadfast. "You reminded me that kindness still exists," he said, "and for that, I intend to return the favor." Before Emily could respond, a high-ranking officer handed the general a folder. He opened it and pulled out an embossed certificate bearing the official seal of the United States Army. Holding it up for all to see, he announced, "This is a certificate of honor personally signed by top military officials." General Holloway announced, "We present this award to individuals who go above and beyond in their service to the country. While you may not wear a uniform, Emily Carter, last night you demonstrated that you serve in your own way. Emily's lips parted in shock as the crowd erupted into applause. A lump formed in her throat as General Holloway extended the certificate towards her. With trembling hands, she accepted it, feeling the weight of recognition settle deep within her chest. She had never done anything expecting attention or an honor like this one. I do not know what to say, she whispered softly. General Holloway flashed a knowing smile. You don't need to say anything. Your actions spoke volumes. Just then, another soldier stepped forward and handed the general an envelope. Turning back to Emily, General Holloway said, "One more thing." As he gave her the envelope, Emily carefully opened it and gasped at what she saw inside. An official military grant worth $100. This is for you, General Holloway explained, acknowledging where they stood in the diner surrounded by their memories of shared camaraderie and gratitude from all those years before. He continued, "So that you can continue helping people just like you've helped me." Overwhelmed with emotion, our emotions overwhelming, Emily's knees nearly buckled under such generous support. Emotionally overwhelmed, shaking her head in disbelief. "This can't be real, it's too much." Merrill Loha utterings stammered, shaking inaudibly. Holloway firmly declared, "This is just the beginning." Turning to face the crowd, he added, "We do not forget those who serve in silence and give without expectation." Emily Carter embodies how a single act of kindness can transform everything. As the military band started playing again, more soldiers gathered around her, some saluting while others extended handshakes. Overwhelmed by emotion and clutching an envelope along with a certificate, tears streamed down Emily's cheeks as she absorbed how drastically her life had changed within hours. Reporters began arriving on scene. Cameras flashed as they documented this significant moment. When one news anchor made their way over to approach her, with the microphone in her hand, Emily was asked how it felt knowing that her simple act of kindness had led to everything unfolding before them. She wiped a tear from her eye and took a shaky breath before responding, "I never expected anything in return." Her voice steadying with resolve, she continued, "I just saw someone who needed kindness, that's all. I hope this reminds people that sometimes the smallest gestures make the biggest difference." The general nodded approvingly and said, "That is exactly why you deserve this." Just then, another military officer approached. Holloway whispered something in his ear, prompting him to nod before turning back to Emily. "There's one last thing," he said. "Something I need to show you." Emily's pulse quickened as she asked, "What is it?" His expression remained unreadable as he replied, "Come with me." The crowd parted for them, while he guided her towards one of the military trucks. Soldiers standing guard saluted and opened the heavy door. As Emily saw what was inside, her breath caught. It was even more significant than she had imagined. As Emily stepped forward, her heart pounded under the weight of the moment. The entire crowd seemed to hold its breath as General Holloway gestured for the soldiers to step aside. With a firm nod from him, one soldier pulled open the back doors of the military transport truck. Inside, neatly arranged in rows, were boxes upon boxes filled with supplies, non-perishable food, bottled water, blankets and clothing, all labeled with military insignias. Confusion flickered across Emily's face as she scanned them all, before finally managing to find her voice. What is all this?" she asked hesitantly. General Holloway stepped beside her, his gaze steady. "This," he said, "is for your diner, for your town, and for anyone who walks through your doors needing help." Emily's breath hitched. "We have seen too many people struggle," Holloway continued. "Veterans, families, the elderly, to many left behind. That night you didn't just give a meal to a homeless man, you gave hope. And we are here to make sure that hope keeps spreading. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she gazed at the supplies before her. This was not merely a gift, but a lifeline. Her small town diner, which had been barely staying afloat, would now transform into a refuge for those in need. As cheers erupted from the crowd, Holloway spoke once more, before she could fully grasp what was happening. "And there's one more thing," he added. Emily turned to face him, still overwhelmed by it all. "There's more?" she asked incredulously. Holloway smiled warmly and said, "Yes, because kindness like yours deserves something beyond gratitude." He gestured toward another soldier, who stepped forward with a set of keys in hand. Emily's brows knitted together as they were extended toward her. "What are these for?" she asked hesitantly. The general nodded toward the street, suggesting, "Why don't you take a look?" Emily turned and her breath caught in her throat. A brand new food truck gleamed under the morning sun, parked just down the street. Its side was adorned with bold letters spelling out Emily's home, serving those who serve us, accompanied by an emblem of the American flag. She staggered back, barely able to stand as she whispered, No, this cannot be real." "But it is very real indeed." Holloway spoke warmly, expressing their desire for expanded reach. "We want you to have the opportunity to serve even more people. This food truck will allow you not only to provide meals here, but also wherever they're needed at veteran shelters, disaster relief sites, and in struggling communities." Overwhelmed with emotion, Emily covered her face as sobs shook her shoulders. She had never imagined anything like this happening in her wildest dreams. Holloway gently placed a hand on her shoulder and said softly, "You demonstrated what one act of kindness can achieve. Now let the world see how far that kindness can extend." The crowd surged forward chanting Emily's name, while reporters rushed to capture every moment and broadcast it across the nation. Emily Carter, who worked as a waitress in the small town, had become a beacon of compassion. She wiped away her tears and took a shaky breath. She clutched the keys tightly in her hand. "I don't know how to thank you," she said softly. Holloway shook his head with a gentle smile. "You already have. Now go make a difference." With the sun climbing higher into the sky, Emily realized that not only had her life changed forever, but also that she was prepared to change others' lives too. Kindness wasn't just fleeting. It was an ongoing movement.